Zels, 10 changes from the side that smashed the Wallabies to the starting 15. A fantastic bench. Your thoughts on the 23 that Rassie and Jacques have put up for the Mount Smart showdown with the All Blacks?
Yeah, 10 changes. It's pretty much what we expected. They did have those guys go in the forward party to New Zealand. It's a powerful team, powerful bench. Surprises there, I suppose, are who's not included, right? No Jesse Creel, no Trevor Nyakane. Like we spoke about, maybe there's a C team for Argentina. So they kept the same front row. You've got Villiers at the back, and you've got Lecanio starting again at outside centre, and the return of a bunch of guys. Everybody's seen the team by now. It's magic. I'm keen to see how Gaza goes at 10. Him and Lecanio, I don't want to say they were favouring their knees in that last test match, but it looked like maybe they weren't at 100%. So hopefully they, another week of action has got them ready for the All Blacks. Huge.
Well, look, I touted Manie Libbok to play all three. I understand why they've kind of gone with Damien to give him a head out at 10.
Yeah.
I think what Libbok showed against Australia is that he's certainly going to go to the World Cup if he's fit. He has certainly gone over, he's surpassed Elton Jantjies in that group, which is not a bad thing. And what I do like is they put him on the bench for goal kicking insurance cover, because I'd hate us to go to Auckland, be potentially in it with a shot to win it and lose it because of goal kicks. Faf de Klerk and Chesson, I think, will take the goal kicking as they did overseas. Very different kicking in Auckland, kicking on an end of year tour.
Yes. Look, I'm not a huge fan of having guys who aren't. People argue that Faf and Chesson are goal kickers. I don't really see them as goal kickers. And it is a concern for me going into the World Cup when the margins are tight that we don't have a guy who's an ace goal kicker like Percy was. So hopefully that's something that they'll answer in the next couple of tests.
Okay, so I did a blog yesterday to say South Africans celebrate. Celebrate when we have a good performance. I thought the performance against the Wallabies was outstanding for a first head out of the season. I remember going back to the Welsh test last year. We were 18-3 down at halftime. Alton had a shocker, several others had shockers, and it was just a nightmare. How we actually got out of jail with a late win there was, I think it's because Wales didn't quite have the belief that they could beat us.
Damien Phillips saved the day.
He certainly did with that late kick, so which proves he can actually kick if he applies his mind or if they actually trust him with it. That said, the only thing that troubles me slightly with the way they've done the split is New Zealand did take all 36 players to Argentina, and possibly 10 of those players you would expect to start again against the Boks. And there's a good core of players that haven't played for a while with the Boks, and especially Eben, who's been out for the best part of 3-4 months. Times certainly have changed in rugby, where a guy comes back from a serious injury and his first match up is to captain the Springboks against the All Blacks in New Zealand. In the old days, you'd have to go through 2 club games, a provincial game, or you'll be introduced from the bench. You surprised that Eben is starting, or that they didn't introduce him off the bench?
No, I think we have to keep looking at all these matches this year in the context of it's a World Cup year and everything is geared towards planning for that. So obviously the results in any test match with the Springboks are not inconsequential, but in the bigger picture of things, this is about something more than just winning this weekend. We'd love to see the Boks win, obviously, but I'm just saying getting these guys back on the field, there's a reason why they've split the squad like they have, and they're playing these guys when they are. So it's part of a bigger picture.
Well, if we look at the Wallaby lineup, Eddie Jones took a lot of stick. He said they were half-baked. Team that would be playing against the Boks. He was asked, how does it feel to play the B team? Is he relieved in to play the A team? He lost the plot. Eddie should have just said, you know what, I'm glad we didn't play the A team. We would have taken 80 today, and they would have ended that question. But I don't believe there's an A and a B Bok team. That's like saying there's just a Stormers and not a Bulls or a Sharks.
Yeah.
So if you put those two packs up against each other,
what a game.
Yeah, what a game. I've always said the A team backline for me has always had the edge, but then you see that performance against Australia, and you see how Libbok came through. You see Grant Williams coming in doing well. Kurtley Orange outstanding with 3 tries. Kane Moody is certainly one for the future, and Kurtley and a Kane can start in at fullback as well.
Those 2 wins, man.
Andre the Giant, he looked quite good as well. First time I've seen him really he had a great platform, but first time I've seen him be dominant at test level. And then obviously Manie Libbok playing well at 10. So if you put a Bok trial match, one team against the other, I don't think there'd be a hell of a lot in it.
No, I agree with that. Just getting back to Andre the Giant, he did have a good game. It surprises me how often that guy is tackled around the hips like a lock. Like he goes into contact. I mean, we're going a bit off subject here, but The guy's like
Or bring it back.
1.95 meters tall.
Yeah, we don't really. You know, he's not going to be a first choice starter. Okay.
How can you not fend a guy? Or, I don't know. It's bizarre to me. Anyway,
right.
he
Well,
did have a good game.
Maybe Rassie should work on his tackling technique again. Okay.
Yeah, that was great. Remember that?
Yeah, so he's got to go in a bit high. Also, when he goes from the contact, don't lead with the arm or lead with the shoulder.
Yeah.
Looking at New Zealand, I was
looking at you,
hugely impressed with them in that first 40 minutes in Mendoza. They smashed the Argentinians. I think the Argentinians knew what had hit them.
No.
And scored some fantastic tries. But again, they were outstanding for 65 minutes against England at Twickenham. And then let England back in. They were 25-6 up. It ended at 25-all, and they were scrambling to actually save that game. You just got that feeling in the second half. Argentina came back into the game.
Argentina won the second half.
Well, they did win the second half by 2 points because they scored after the hooter. Okay,
Counts, mate.
Come on. They didn't win the first half. So 41-12. But is that a thing that they don't quite have the bench that South Africa has? So to go 31-0 up, to be 41-5 up, they didn't really stick them away. Is that the one advantage you would say we've got over many teams is the introduction of what comes off our bench?
Absolutely. Like we just said, our bench is good enough to be a top-tier test nation on its own. You know, I mean, obviously we need 15 players, but the point I'm trying to make is world-class players come off our bench. I don't think you can really argue that the All Blacks have got a weak bench, but certainly not to the same standard that we've got at the moment in terms of guys that have played, have experience, are in form, and are crushers at the gain line. We've got an abundance of those sort of players. So I think that definitely makes a difference. I also think we must be careful of reading too much into the season opening games. Like you said, Wales came real close to beating the Boks. And you know, if they'd won that game, would it have been the dawn of a new era for Wales? No, they are still terrible. So I think the season opening...
Scotty, I apologise on behalf of Zels, one of the great legends. They
don't make him like that anymore, mate.
Welsh rugby, Scott Gibbs.
Yes.
At least Wales did get that win in Bloemfontein.
Scott is still...
Rassie and Jacques.
Is still the best centre in Wales.
Still the best centre in
Still
Wales.
the best centre in
one of the
Wales.
best centres ever played World Rugby.
Correct.
Rugby League and Rugby Union.
Yeah. I just think...
Only guy to bring down a stadium, Scott Gibbs.
The Demolition Man.
The Demolition Man. He scored the try against England, told Neil Jenkins, I've done my job, now you do yours. Neil Jenkins had to kick the conversion, 32-31. And as Scotty always says, half an hour into the reception, he just heard the bulldozers come in. And he went on the mic and he said, look, I know that you hurt him, but isn't it a bit radical breaking down the stadium? And that was when the old Wembley had to be demolished, and they started the demolition straight after Wales had beaten England. We have digressed slightly, but that's
Bring it back, mate.
That's your history cue for today. Yeah, I mean, it's what I'm loving about this match is one, we're going to go past 5 million views over the last year and a half. So thanks to everyone who kind of tunes into the affable Zels. And I love him, man. Check his timeline as well. You'll love him even more on Twitter, okay? It is against the All Blacks. But there is something building in New Zealand when you look at the way they're talking about it's the best against the best. They've got to pick their best side to beat the Boks, and that will be the litmus test. Again, because of the shortened version of the Rugby Championship, 3 rounds. It's like it's cringe really when you think they're going to award someone the championship
100%.
based on 3 rounds, and also based on a weighted advantage of, for
Home and
example, the All Blacks come here. You'd think the Boks should win. We go there. You'd think they have the advantage of being the home team, and that weights it.
Imagine we had to play on the Gold Coast this year. It'd be over.
Yeah, I know. It's just if we had to play Brisbane and Eden Park,
Finished.
and then go into Mendoza or something like that, or Salta. Where did they hammer us in Argentina, Mendoza? Yeah, and the year we won the World Cup. So, yeah, I mean, there's going to be a great buzz around this test. And what I do like is if you look at all things considered, the Boks are fully fit. It's nearer the World Cup. I see this 23 as being closer to the World Cup, with the exception of a Peter Steff who would come in as a starter.
Yes.
Being very close to the World Cup set 23 that you'd send out in a playoff game.
Yeah, I certainly in the back line, I would agree with that. Up front, you can make a case, and we've spoken about this, you can make a case for a bunch of changes there that wouldn't make the team necessarily stronger or weaker, you know. So definitely that back line, although what Curtly Orense and Kane Moody did against Australia, I mean, some of those tries that Curtly Orense scored, just ridiculous.
Well, they are blowing. They're
in form, mate.
Colby and Makazole will feel them. They'll feel their breath. And especially Cheslin, who's just had such a horror run with injuries.
Yeah.
At an international level, he's only played 18 tests.
And he's scraping by on 22 million in Japan. I mean, life is not easy for that guy at the moment.
So with a Kirtley there, I mean, look, I'm backing Chesson to come good. I know you're not.
No, I love Chesson. It's one of my favourite players. I think he's amazing.
That's all you told me earlier, mate.
But I think Canan Moody is the real deal, and I think Kirtley Orance's form, you just cannot deny that. I mean, jeez.
Pick a guy when he's in form, okay? It's going to be interesting what they do post this match when they play Argentina.
Yeah.
Because that will kind of give them an idea of where each guy is positioned form-wise. It's going to be a great game. We don't know the All Black side yet. We'll chat about that a bit later in the week when they announce their side.
Yeah.
They've also got fantastic options in the backs. Not so much in the forwards, but in the backs. But let's bear in mind, the last time these two teams played, we were primed to smash them at Ellis Park in front of 62,000 people. And they gave us a bit of a physical rough-up with kids.
Yes.
And even though we fought our way back, we were 15-0 down, we fought our way back to be in the lead, we fell away in the last 5 minutes. They scored 2 glorious tries. And they buried us, where we should have buried them forever.
Correct. We took our foot off the gas.
I don't know if we took our foot off the gas. We looked gassed that match. So a very disappointing result. So we have some payback for them. You don't want to go into that Twickenham game.
Well, that's
you've lost 3 in a row,
yeah.
and then you play them in a World Cup quarterfinal, and you're on potential of 4 in a row.
Yes, I'm very keen to see how this all plays out. I don't want to talk too far ahead, but we are playing them at Twickenham, and then there is a World Cup where we may meet them. You know, it's interesting. I would love to be in the mind of Rusty right now to understand how they're thinking around these test matches, what they want to get out of them.
Okay, but are you, as one of the most influential scribes in South Africa, as the editor of SARugbymag magazine, your voice is heard. Are you satisfied with the way they've gone about picking the side that played Australia and the side that played New Zealand in comparison to the way they put 2 sides out against Wales last year?
Yes, what they did last year was an abomination. And even though we played way too much rugby against Australia and more rugby than we'll play at the World Cup, it was a bit of popcorn. It was great for the fans. It's good for the stakeholders. I think they are ticking all the right boxes. I think when it comes to crunch time, they're going to play a lot more pragmatically and more efficiently. And I think that'll be what helps us run it defending the World Cup.
But the key there is that we have the ability to pick 2 very good packs.
Correct.
And everything starts up front and it invariably ends there. The one thing that hasn't changed in over 100 years of Test rugby is if you don't have a pack, you don't win games.
Correct.
And the Wallabies saw that again.
Yeah. And I mean, literally, this is a team that Rusty turned around in a couple of months based on the fact that we could smash you up front. And just that momentum, the advantage that comes from having the physical ascendancy, that's exactly how South Africa plays their rugby. That's why we've been successful against most nations.
And tying in with that, the reason the Baby Box was so unsuccessful in the hosting of the World Championship, they didn't have a pack.
Yeah, mate.
They didn't have a pack.
Oh, I think we owe Ireland like a thank you letter, like a note. Thanks for putting us out of our misery.
Well, we spoke about this last week. We said, thank God they're not playing France in the semi-final.
Oh.
France would have put 50
They
past
would have
them.
had to put like an R rating on that game.
As well as England played, the end score was 52-31, 21 points. New Zealand, 35-20, 21. It's 35-14, 21 points.
Yeah.
France, we've said it all along, 20 points better than anyone at this tournament.
Yes.
And I think they'll prove it against
60 points better than the Baby Box.
Yeah, no, they would have put a big one past them. So how we've ended 4th is...
Well, we got to play England on Friday to find out who finishes 3rd.
Well, we'll end 4th. We're not going to beat England, okay? We don't have the pack to beat England. We don't have the all-round skill. This was a poor cycle. We said it at the outset.
Yeah.
Don't have expectation of them.
Yeah.
And the good thing is next year's under-20 cycle will be a different cycle, and hopefully they'll come up with better results. Not as bad as the Kiwis, though. They're playing for 7th and 8th position.
Sure.
Diabolical against Australia. They lost to them with 13 players on the field. So did have the best haka, did have the best hairstyles, and certainly the best range of boots.
Fabulous.
Apparently had the best time in Cape Town as well. All right, Eddie Jones. We'll wrap up with him.
Eddie!
Our favourite guy. Let himself down a bit in Pretoria.
I don't think he let himself down at all. What he did was he took the heat off the Wallabies. Everybody's talking about Eddie Jones now. Nobody's saying, geez, those Wallabies are probably the worst Wallabies team we've seen for, I don't know, 10 years?
I know. The Raw said that it was a shit show, to quote them.
Oh, really?
And the Sydney Morning Herald said, what a horror start for Eddie Jones.
I mean, yeah, so people are talking about the Wallabies. But less so than they would be if Eddie hadn't made a bit of a scene at that press conference.
But what I do love about Australia, and in any sport, is if we took one like that, there'd be a national inquiry, okay?
Yeah.
We'd be down in the dumps. Whatever.
Nobody in Australia even knows.
Before they got on the plane, Quay Cooper saying, we're going to win the World Cup.
He's not wrong, mate. They're going to be in it.
He said, we're going to win the World Cup. Eddie's saying they're going to beat Argentina. All that matters is what happens next week, not what happened last week. I love the way these guys rebound from a defeat.
Quaid could say that because he basically didn't play on Saturday. He watched most of the match.
Unbelievable, yeah. So a great start for the Boks. Huge. We're going to be chatting in the week once we know the All Black side, but it's going to be a ripper. And to all of you who signed up on predictsports.com, we had 2,060 entries for pick the right winner. Someone did. Someone picked 43-12 to the Boks. Got their 5,000 Rand.
A guy called Park Meerhane.
The money man got lots of likes on his preview. He was chuffed. He called it. He said the Boks would go over 40 points. And we got 1,000 new registrations on top of 10,000 as we've relaunched the old Dash for Cash into Predict Sports. So log on there. We will have games for you this weekend, and then we'll up the ante from next weekend with a multi-faceted sports approach. Zels, it's always a pleasure chatting to you. You're looking good. You're affable. You're kind. You're generous. And
wow.
You're still a Dave Rennie fan, aren't you?
Yes, I am, mate.
Dave Rennie, as the Australians say, rather a coach with the personality of a chair than a coach who's like a choir boy and gets a 43-12.
Space, Rico, you on it!